was that anytime an amendment is made, you have to deliver that amendment to the current trustee of the trust. And in this case, Priscilla wasn't aware of it, so it clearly was not delivered to the trustee.
Okay, guys, obviously I've had no time to prepare or let you guys know. I want to quickly play some of this video, and I'm just going to turn something off a minute. Nothing has changed. She's carrying on with it like no one died. Like no one died. I don't care what anyone says to me. I want one person to show me where the brief is. We see Priscilla going around promoting different events. Sorry, guys. Right. Okay, right. So I've got about half an hour, I think. So let's just get things going, guys. Right. So, two big topics. Guys, hi Pat. It's a bit of a rush job because I've got to go somewhere in half an hour. So, hope you're well, Pat. I haven't had a chance to notify anyone. I will just quickly say I'm live on our chat. But let's have a look. Let me just quickly post it. So we've done a couple of little we've done 2 lives this morning already. There are kids in the house, guys, so be aware. Right, some of them. So can hear the kids arguing in the background. So it's a big deal today because Amy has notified me about that it's now confirmed about the book, Priscilla's book. It will happen. So we've already done some on that. There's going to be a follow-up video concerning the release of Priscilla's book, and now that it's official and there's an official statement. So our thanks, Pat. So we're going to do another part to that. Not now, because I want to spend at least an hour on that. So I am determined to discuss Elvis's will. What was said in Elvis's will. I want to know about Vernon's will. I want to know if there was any changes made to Elvis's will. Yeah. I think there were. I've been told about a few things. Obviously, we've been listening to the Smiths, EFM, etc. They've given us some recent information on that, of course, and then there was other things that were changed. I think Vernon wanted to make sure certain people got something as well, so there was last-minute alterations there as well. Of course, you guys discussed what Priscilla was up to and what changes were made the few months leading up to Elvis's death. Yeah? So you guys have strong feelings about what Priscilla may have done, possibly altering Vernon's will. The big decision where Vernon makes Priscilla a co-executor, you have strong feelings about that as well. So I don't really know anything about the will. So I'm going to do this live stream. This is only an introduction. And I'm going to act as if I know nothing. Like, I know nothing. I know nothing. Yeah? I think that's the best place to start from. I know that Amy will probably be giving me some information. Amy Collett, our researcher. So remember, I am not an expert. I'm not a researcher. I'm just a fan having a discussion with Team Elvis. That's it. So I stumbled across this. It's a woman called Kirsten Howe. She discusses all of it. She discusses Elvis's last will, Vernon's will. She discusses Lisa's will. I think she discusses the insurance policies, because obviously the insurance side of things was a big deal as well. So we're going to play some of that. We don't have enough time to play all of it. Just very, very quickly, I did quickly Google it. Where is it? Is it going to come up? Oh my God, there's like 20 things on here. Let's just see if I quickly just Googled what it would say if I typed it in the search. Oh, here we go. Hi, beautiful wife. So it says here, Elvis' last will and testament names 3 beneficiaries: his grandmother, Minnie Mae Presley, his father, Vernon Presley, and his daughter, Lisa Marie Presley. His grandmother and father passed away within a few years of Elvis's death, so Lisa was left the only beneficiary. Now, we know, don't we, guys, that, let me get the video up, that Elvis wanted everything to go to Lisa. Ultimately, that is what Elvis wanted. That was his wishes. Yeah. So we can break it down in any way we want, but ultimately that is what Elvis wanted. Yeah. So I'm going to press play now. Please understand, I'm not saying I agree with any of this because a lot of it I haven't watched. I'm just playing it, and we're going to critique it. We're going to review it. These are not my views. These are just the views of this person, Kirsten Howe, and she's discussing her views with someone else. Yeah. So let me just put some more water in my tea. So my tea lasts more than 2 minutes. Okay. All right, cup of tea. So if you want to see our discussions of this morning about the book, the official announcement of Priscilla Presley book Elvis and Me 2, she named it after a song, but it's just bullshit, right? It's Elvis and Me 2. She's going to tell a pack of lies. She's going to rewrite history. She's going to know that the public are very gullible and they're all just going to go along with it. Yeah. This is the problem. We, the Elvis fans, we know it's all bullshit. We know that this book is all bullshit. It's a pack of lies. The public don't. This is the sad truth. Anyway, let's focus on the divorce. Let's have a little listen. And, yeah, Jean. Hi, Jean. Morning. The problem we got, Jean, is that I am so rushed for time. I haven't had the time to notify people. It's annoying, frustrating, but it's, wife, 5 kids, trying to run my businesses. It takes me 15 to 20 minutes to let everyone know. And sometimes I just don't have that time. Like even now, I only have 25 minutes. Then I got to go. So it's all push. But come on, guys. I think you'll find this very interesting. Let's go.
One of the things that we do know the trust says was that anytime an amendment is made, you have to deliver that amendment to the current trustee of the trust. And in this case, Priscilla wasn't aware of it, so it clearly was not delivered to the trustee. On a side note, which none of the news articles or petitions said, if she was changing the trustees of the trust, wouldn't all the assets have to have been retitled in the name of the new trustees? So clearly that didn't happen. None of the action occurred after that, like they normally would have if you're changing trustees. One of the things in favor for Priscilla is that in 2018, 2 years after the alleged amendment, Lisa Marie sued her trustee, one of her trustees and business manager, Barry Siegel. And at that time, in those legal documents, in her legal documents, it names Priscilla and Barry as co-trustees,
So this, remember there was some serious wrongdoing happening between Barry Siegel, who was Lisa's manager, in 2016. An absolute fortune was wasted, like 50 million in stupid investments with things like American Idol. This massively impacted Lisa Marie, literally squandered her fortune. And it is thought that Priscilla Presley was heavily involved in this massive amount of money that was lost, wasted, invested, and that they were personally taking a fortune. It is said that Priscilla was taking $900,000 a year where she shouldn't have been. Barry Siegel was taking $500,000 a year where he shouldn't have been. So there's possible serious wrongdoing here between Barry Siegel and Priscilla Presley against her own daughter. Just alleged, for entertainment purposes, just an opinion.
It indicates that maybe she didn't change the trustees.
Maybe she didn't change the trustees. Yeah.
Welcome to Absolute Trust Talk with your host, Kirsten Howe. Absolute Trust Talk brings you tips, tools, advice, and interviews.
Estate planning lessons that we can learn from them. So
remember, they're having a discussion here. They're not Team Elvis. Yeah. These are very completely, independent views nothing to do with me. This is not Elvis fans. This is not Priscilla fans. This is just outsiders giving their point of view.
So I'm going to hand it over to Madison. She's going to kind of tee that up for us.
All right. Thank you. So it's a sad day. Lisa Marie Presley passed away at 54, very young, like her father, who was 42. Fortunately for us, it's a good excuse to have a whole episode of Absolute Trust Talk to discuss one of Kirsten's favorite topics, because if you didn't know, she's a huge Elvis fan.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. Kristen is an Elvis fan.
Huge. And in this case, we're talking about the whole Presley family, or at least Elvis and Lisa Marie, and a little bit of Priscilla. What really triggered this was that Priscilla Presley filed a petition to challenge an amendment to Lisa Marie Presley's trust. So yay, she had a trust. Boo, there's a challenge to it. And while Priscilla and Lisa Marie not getting along is not news in itself, I don't think they've ever gotten along. It's irregular that Priscilla would challenge Lisa Marie's estate, given that Lisa Marie's leaving everything to her children. I mean, that's kind of like the natural flow of things. Normally, your parents don't challenge that. So we're going to discuss this further. But first, Kirsten's going to give us the Elvis backstory.
Right. Because, he is the king.
So let's have a listen to Kirsten. And whilst we're listening, I'm going to try and let a few of you know that we're live.
And I am a huge fan, as Madison said.
And the kings always go first. Watching The Crown, the queen always goes first. It's the rule.
There you go. Yes, and I am a huge fan. If you haven't seen Baz Luhrmann's movie, which came out, I think, last fall, you need to go see it. Everybody who's listening, everyone who can hear my voice, you need to go out and see that. Every Monday we have a team meeting and we kind of talk about what did you do this weekend? And the weekend that I saw that movie, I probably really embarrassed myself by talking for like 10 minutes about the movie, about Elvis, about all of that stuff. And the rest of my team was probably like, oh my God.
I mean, one thing the Baz Luhrmann film did do, guys, it definitely brought it all back to the forefront of it reintroduced Elvis to the world, brought in many new fans. And there was a whole side to the Baz Luhrmann film that was great, but also it wasn't completely accurate. There's many things in the film that I'm not keen on, but I would say it was more of a good thing than a bad thing.
To be fair, that is the only movie I've seen in the theater since COVID. Everything else, we've strictly stuck to the drive-in, and that is the only thing that we are like, no, we can't listen to that in the car. We have to go to the movie theater for that.
Totally worth
the only one. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, on to Elvis Presley's estate planning, because the Lisa Marie story kind of starts with her father, Elvis Presley.
I've watched some of this. They start at the beginning, I think, when obviously Elvis passes his wishes for the will. Let's just listen. This is new to me, guys. So we're listening to this together. These are not my views. These are Kirsten's views. Yeah.
Of course. And there are some interesting lessons and points of discussion in the story of his estate planning. We'll talk about his plan first. And as we go along, we'll point out some interesting issues as we see them along the way. So at the time of his death, which was in 1977, Elvis's estate was estimated to be worth about $5 million, which I have come to understand is probably about $20 million in today's dollars. I didn't do that math. I don't know that that's true, but that sounds about.
So do we agree with that? 5 million back then would have been worth 20 million now. But I've had different versions of this, guys. I've had people tell me that actually Elvis was worth, had a lot more than was said. But let's just keep listening.
About right. It also sounds, to me, that's always sounded really like a very small estate for someone like the king of rock and roll, who worked for 25 years and was all over the place, sold.
I'll throw my bit in, guys. Priscilla was hammering Elvis on this second divorce settlement, and he was giving her massive installments of money to Priscilla. I've always said Priscilla was a big part of the reason Elvis had run out of money. Of course, he was a massive spender. He was very generous. He would buy people houses, cars, jewelry, etc. But Priscilla is part of the reason Elvis had spent so much money. So when Elvis had passed, how much money was left? Priscilla is a big part of the reason why the money had reduced so much.
Millions and millions of records. So there's a whole story there, but we probably aren't going to go much into that. When Elvis died, he had a will, not a trust. which is not how we typically do things in California, because in California, we're trying to avoid probate. And so we use trusts. Elvis didn't live in California. He spent a lot of time in California, but he lived in Tennessee. And it might be that their probate process is not so horrible as ours is here in California. So they use wills. Elvis's will established a testamentary trust, which means it was a trust that was created after his death in his will, as opposed to what we do here in California is a living trust. You create the trust while you're alive.
So that's interesting. Is it true? He created a trust. Let's keep going.
And he designated his father, Vernon, to be the trustee of that trust. And the beneficiaries of this trust after Elvis died, his estate was held in trust for the benefit of Vernon, his father, Elvis's grandmother, and Lisa Marie. So there were 3 named beneficiaries, and the trustee was to make distributions to them for their health, education, support, comfortable maintenance, and welfare, which is a little bit different from the language we use in California, but it's basically, to make sure that they're okay, they're taken care of. So the trustee is to hold on.
Okay, we know that, don't we, God? We know who Elvis wanted taken care of if he died.
To all this money, $5 million, and make these distributions. One thing that's interesting, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, Madison, in addition to those 3 beneficiaries, the trustee, which remember is Vernon, his father, had discretion to provide funds to other relatives. And that's
So this is important. This is where I think Vernon was allowed to change things, to provide things to certain relatives. Let's keep listening.
what the will said, relatives who are in need of emergency assistance in those same categories, health, education, support, comfortable.
Now, remember, Elvis did make last-minute changes to the will for certain people, certain relatives, okay?
Maintenance and welfare. So what do you think about that?
That's weird. I mean, I am aware that he had an aunt that lived at Graceland until the 90s. So there were definitely other people living in the house. And so maybe that's their version of, allowing people to live in the home after his death. I mean, it's a very gracious, no pun intended. Well, maybe pun intended. A gracious way of allowing your family to keep living in your home. It's broad.
Yeah, it wasn't specific to people who might be living in the home, which is Graceland, in case you've been living in a cave for the last 50 years. And he doesn't say, he leaves it to very broadly other relatives.
Who's going to pop up?
Yeah.
Who's driving up from Tupelo to get in on that money?
Yeah. Are they going to?
Right, sorry guys, I was quickly just trying to let some people know because I don't have long, so I'm trying to squeeze it all in together. But thanks, Angie, thank you. Right, let's have a little quick read. Trust may be ways to protect money and assist distribution of family members who are young and inexperienced with money, so not all spent at once, my thought. Thank you, Linda. Just so you know, Linda, I've only got 20, 25 minutes, half an hour. I really want to go into this, the will, Elvis's will, Vernon's will, Lisa's will in detail. This is a rush job because I've got to go, we're out this afternoon for a trip. I've already done 2 live streams this morning concerning that it's been confirmed that Priscilla is writing a book, has already written the book from what I see. From the write-up I read, the book is already written and the publishers have confirmed it will be released on the 23rd of September. So the book, in her words, in this press release that Amy Collett sent me, Auntie Amy, the researcher, the book has already been written. Let's keep going, guys.
Have to do some kind of paternity test, and
that didn't exist.
Right. That's true, too.
Yeah.
But no, I think if we'd had a client wanting to do something like this, we probably would have want to put some boundaries around it, make it a little more specific. Who are you talking about? Maybe put some kind of dollar cap on it. Emergency for comfortable welfare. When does an emergency arise like that? I think maybe we would have narrowed that down a little bit.
I mean, what if somebody had an accident, needed to be airlifted and gone to this hospital? I mean, that money at that time could have been gone very fast.
Yep.
If it's spent on.
So I see what they're doing. They're seeing the things that were put in place, and they're, as you know, I don't know what their jobs are, but advocates, whatever they call it, they are saying, from the point of view of writing it up, how to protect different people, how to keep people's best interest at heart, to make sure Elvis's wishes are carried out, but also that Vernon is in a position where if things change, that he can alter things as need be. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. It just seemed a little open-ended for a situation where you have a minor child who now doesn't have a father. You need to be sure that she's going to be supported. Of course, Elvis didn't know he probably didn't know he was going to die.
So look, I mean, she laughs a bit about that, but the truth is, Elvis did not know he was going to die. I don't care what anyone says. He knew he was unwell. Of course, he prepared for that. He didn't think he was going to die. Honestly, I've never thought that Elvis knew he was going to die. He knew he was unwell. Now, you guys may have different views. Please leave it in the comments. I personally think Elvis always was very hopeful for the future and was always trying to get better, was always trying to fix himself, and had an optimistic outlook. That's my opinion. I think the holiday in Hawaii shows that. But anyway, let's keep going, guys.
So young. But anyway, leaving it open to other relatives when everybody knows how Elvis was surrounded by family members and friends who just kind of mooched off of him. He supported so many people. He had this huge entourage of people.
And
guys, I have to be careful. What she just said, I put it out to you. Did people mooch off Elvis? Put it in the comments. I don't want to upset anyone. I want to just say this, that Elvis was very generous to everyone around him, friends, as well as family, as well as strangers. So that comment I won't buy into the comment, but I ask you to leave in the comments what you think about that comment.
Vernon was involved in that. So he's going to have all the same advisors.
He's going to have all those same people around him. And they're people who, honestly, in my humble opinion, weren't really caring about Elvis a whole lot. They let him, he died of polypharmacy. He died of having 14 or 11 different drugs in his blood system on the day.
So, obviously I have strong views about what she just said about what he died of. Yeah. Whatever anyone thinks, Elvis was very, very sick. Now, was there abuse towards the last few years? Yeah, but he was desperate. He was sick. He was unwell. He couldn't sleep. His stomach was in serious pain. He had breathing problems, heart problems. Every problem you can imagine Elvis had. So this man wanted to ease his pain, his discomfort. He wanted to soothe himself. He wanted to get through the day. He wanted energy to perform. So it isn't fair to just go, oh, Elvis took 14 pills and he killed himself by overtaking drugs. That's not fair. You have to bring into that this man had been sick for years, even was sick as a child, even sick as a baby. So obviously books like Destined to Die Young give us an insight into that. I don't like the title, but I still think the book does give us an eye-opener into Elvis's serious health problems. He inherited genetically, was born with, just had, couldn't sleep, could not sleep. Without sounding rude, very constipated, very, very constipated. So Elvis was desperate to try and heal himself as well as ease his pain. So it isn't straightforward as, 14 pills and he died. No, a very sick man. When you're sick, what do? You turn to your doctor. What does the doctor do? He gives you pills. Are they addictive? Of course. Do you rely on them? Of course. Are there side effects? Of course. Can you die from overtaking them? Of course. So you get what I'm saying, guys. It's a complex picture.
The day he died, and everybody knew it. Everybody around him knew it, and they didn't do anything to stop him. So this just seems like not a good idea. These people are going to come to Vernon and ask for money, and I don't know. we would have tried to talk him out of being so broad and so unspecific, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
They're sort of saying more people should have helped. When the abuse, because there was abuse with the medication, when it was going on, they're all saying people should have stepped in and helped him. Priscilla must have known how sick Elvis was. Now, they had divorced. She was shagging another bloke. She was very interested in money and fame and fortune and her own business. She was a greedy lady. I don't care what anyone says. Priscilla was a very greedy, self-absorbed, selfish person, a very selfish mother. Yeah? We know this again and again. We have proved just how selfish, how much of a terrible mother Priscilla was to Lisa. But she was there. She was seeing him, you know, she would see him when she collected Lisa. She would speak to him regularly on the phone. My guess is they were arguing a lot about Lisa and money. Priscilla could have made a difference, but she just had her eye on the money. There wasn't enough people that tried. I think many of you feel this way, that could have made a difference, that should have helped Elvis. Some of you will bring up people like certain Memphis Mafia members. Some of you will bring up family members, or even Ginger Alden, people like that. It's a complicated story. Just put it in your comments, guys. Linda has just said, I just read one of Linda's comments. I've been reading the books, still reading more. I agree with her comments. They took and took and took. It does seem that way, though, guys. It does seem that way. It also seems that maybe people didn't realize that Elvis could actually die. Yeah. It's so sad, and we're all gutted, aren't we? We're all gutted. The last couple of years of Elvis's life, we're all gutted.
Yeah. Fun fact, one of Elvis's Memphis Mafia entourage was Lisa Marie Presley's date at the Golden Globes 2 days before she died.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
right, Jerry Schilling.
So Jerry Schilling, they're talking about.
Yeah.
not a great look.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, I wouldn't say he was a date. Is that what they just said? It was a date. It wasn't a date. Come on, guys. That's just ridiculous.
Right. Okay, so that's what the trust said, and Vernon was the trustee. That didn't last for all that long because Vernon died just a few years later, and so did the grandmother. So just a few years later, Lisa Marie became the sole beneficiary of that trust, aside from that, other relatives provision. And the trustees after Vernon died were three entities: Priscilla Presley, which is Lisa Marie's mother, Elvis's ex-wife; the National Bank of Commerce, which is Tennessee Bank.
Sorry, I missed a comment here. Hello, Louis. It's my granddaughter's. Oh, sorry, I've only just seen it, Emily. Sorry. Alana. So I can't join Louis. I will watch. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Alana. Happy birthday to you. Have a great birthday, Alana. Your mum is amazing. Let's.
And Joseph Hanks, who I think was a CPA, the family's CPA. And so those three were co-trustees after Vernon died. And they were appointed.
Sorry, your grandmother is amazing. I'm sorry, guys. I'm in such a rush. Your grandmother, Emily, is amazing.
Apparently in Vernon's will. So something there gave Vernon the right to appoint trustees to replace himself, which is interesting.
You think?
Maybe just rewind that little bit, because I think it's crucial.
Became the sole beneficiary of that trust. Aside from that,
Memphis Mafia entourage was Lisa Marie Presley's date at the Golden Globes 2 days before she died.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
right, Jerry Schilling. Yeah,
not a great look.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so that's what the trust said, and Vernon was the trustee. That didn't last for all that long because Vernon died just a few years later, and so did the grandmother. So just a few years later.
Yeah, we got a lot to say about that, really, haven't we? Because obviously before Vernon died, things happened. Priscilla, obviously, didn't she try and sue Vernon? Yeah. Before, obviously, didn't she try and take over? No, not that's the wrong way of putting it. Didn't she try and contest Elvis's will using Joe Esposito? Is that right? Was it Joe Esposito, the one she tried to disagree with the will? You tell me, guys, I'm learning. Then eventually she's pushing Vernon so that she can be co-executor on behalf of Lisa in the will, which is awkward because she's the mum of Lisa. Elvis wants everything to go to Lisa Marie. So there was some serious goings on before Vernon died, legal issues concerning possible lawsuits. Maybe there were lawsuits. This is where we're learning, guys. We're learning. Priscilla, once Elvis died, was out for money, out for power. She wasn't happy that she had been completely left out of the will. So there's more to it. I'm learning. Please tell me, please leave it in the comments. Anything that you know that happened between Priscilla and Vernon that affected Lisa, that happened before Vernon died, please leave it in the comments because I want to know. I want to learn.
Later, Lisa Marie became the sole beneficiary of that trust, aside from that, other relatives provision. And the trustees after Vernon died were three people or three entities. Priscilla Presley, which is Lisa Marie.
Yeah, Karen, I think they were hinting that Jerry was Lisa's date. That's just bullshit. Come on. At the Golden Globes, it wasn't a date. He accompanied her because she was so unwell. I think that's what they were trying to say.
His mother, Elvis's ex-wife, the National Bank of Commerce, which is a Tennessee bank, and Joseph Hanks, who I think was a CPA, the family's CPA. And so those three were co-trustees after Vernon died. And they were appointed apparently in Vernon's will. So something there gave Vernon the right to appoint trustees to replace himself, which is interesting.
You think because this was a probate, you could get your hands on Elvis's will?
Well, I did find Elvis's will online.
I mean, guys, it's quite easy to find the will. Yeah, it's all there on Google. You can get it up. I don't trust Google. You know how I feel. But it would take me forever to read it out. And I don't want to read it out, to be honest with you, because I wouldn't enjoy it. I find reading documents boring, but let's keep listening.
A document that purports to be Elvis's will, but it was not a signed version. It looked like it could have been, it was on legal size paper, and it was in that old timey font that typewriters had, because it would have been done on a typewriter.
Yeah.
So what I want is the highlights. I want the highlights, not all the gobbledygook. I want, right, Elvis wanted this. Yeah. Same goes for the alterations to the will. This, and this happened. Yeah. And eventually they move on and discuss Vernon's will. This. And then they go on to discuss Lisa's will. And then there's some insurance policies. Yeah. I want the headlines. Yeah.
In 1977. And it was written maybe about 6 months before his death. But anyway, so I don't know how that came about, but that brings us to the issue of, trustees.
Yeah.
And how do you replace a trustee? How do you change the trustee? Madison, you want to chime in on that?
Typically when you write a will or a trust, it doesn't really matter which document it is, you have a list of successor trustees. And it could very well be that his successor trustees Vernon didn't agree with. And he then had the ability somehow in the will to use a power of appointment in his own will to go around that and name his own. I mean, if Colonel Tom Parker was named as the alternate executor behind Vernon, then I can see why he might want to change that. And maybe it's just a way of changing it without having to go to court or something of that nature. But typically the document itself would name, first I want my trustee to be Vernon. And then if he can't, it would be Priscilla. And if she can't, then it would be so-and-so. And you just put 3 or 4 in there so that there's, options.
Right.
Yeah. So I understand that. Vernon was in a position through the wording of Elvis's will. Yeah. Where he could alter things. Yeah. He could add people. He could remove people. Even he could elect another executor, in the will. So he had the power to add people to the will, to remove people, I think. That's just a guess. He had the power to bring Priscilla into the will. Elvis didn't want Priscilla in the will. He wanted her out. He felt she'd had enough. So did Vernon. They both felt that she'd had enough. She'd had her pound of flesh. A very greedy second divorce settlement. Yeah. So Elvis didn't want Priscilla in that will at all, but he did want Lisa Marie's assets protected. Lisa Marie protected. And I understand why Vernon would have thought that the only person that can truly protect Lisa was Priscilla. Now, of course, we know that Priscilla did not protect Lisa, threw her into Scientology and many other mistakes. But in the gift of hindsight, yeah?
Right.
It makes it a lot easier.
Right.
And you get to choose.
Right. But so the other point of it is that if there is some change of the trustee that needs to happen, you have to first read the document and figure out, what are we supposed to do? What's the procedure here? What are we allowed to do? Who can do it? So, we don't know if that was Elvis's will that I saw, but somehow these three ended up being the co-trustees after taking over after Vernon died. It was
which we have strong views about. It's so awkward because Priscilla, because of her greed with the second divorce settlement, had placed the lien, the debt on Graceland, created from the deed of trust to guarantee she gets her money in installments because Elvis couldn't afford it. Elvis couldn't afford to pay Priscilla. I've said it a million times. He almost had no choice but to allow her, with her lawyers, to place this debt on Graceland, which gave Priscilla a lot of power. Plus, Priscilla was Lisa's mother. So I would say in some ways, Vernon almost had no choice but to make Priscilla a co-executive. Obviously, she 100% would have talked him into it, allegedly, for entertainment purposes, just an opinion. This is an opinion show. It's not fact. Now, I know that the Elvis fans are extremely worried and concerned and angry about what happens that leads up to Vernon allowing, really, Priscilla to be in charge of everything, in charge of Lisa. Yeah. It's a big deal, guys. That decision that Vernon made changed everything. But what other choices did he have? Please leave it in the comments. What other choices did Vernon have? You think about it. Lisa Marie is her daughter. They're looking for someone who will look out for Lisa Marie's interests. Lisa Marie is still very young. You get it? Anyway, let's keep going.
kind of unusual. I thought that he chose his father as the trustee in the first place. I don't know. At that point, Vernon was probably still in his early 60s. Maybe that wasn't such a bad idea. Usually you want to go younger.
Yeah, and you would think there would have been an alternate given that Lisa Marie is for certain going to outlive, Vernon. And it was until she was, a certain age. So you would think that there'd be an alternate there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's a hint there that obviously Elvis had left things to his father, giving his father a lot of power. It's unusual to make a will and leave things to your father. I have to accept that. If I made a will, I wouldn't be thinking leave things to my mum. My mother's still alive. She's in a nursing home and she's really well. But you don't think, leave it to the mum. My mum's 83. You don't think leave it to the mum. You think the wife, the kids, don't you? Isn't that what you think? Yeah. So I get her point. She's saying it was an unusual step that he'd left things to his father. Obviously, Elvis is aware that he's not well. He's very sick. He's in need of strong medication. He's in a lot of pain and discomfort. So I understand. He was worried. That his health was running away from him. So makes a good point. Yeah, Linda says Vernon could never have known what Priscilla would go on to do. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, so to me, it's obvious that Priscilla knew how unwell Elvis was. I think it's really obvious. Yeah. So yeah, Martha, I'm sure Rhonda will do. I was given this information in the middle of the night. This is concerning the book being confirmed that it will happen by Amy Collett. So I'm sure Rhonda's going to be on it at Presley Mania. We love Rhonda, don't we? Elvis last year with the book, Priscilla going after him and his touring. The man must have been tortured. Yeah, come on, the last year. We've been through it so many times, guys. So much was going on. This is why I don't take the Ginger Aldrin relationship seriously. Too much was happening. The Elvis What Happened book. Elvis so sick. Priscilla still attacking him for more money in the second divorce settlement. It was... And could you imagine the pain and discomfort Elvis was in? It's just, the whole year is atrocious. But there is an optimistic, positive bit. When you listen to Ginger Alden, she says Elvis was looking forward to the tour, the future. We know about the holiday in, was it March in 1977 in Hawaii? So there was a side to Elvis that was optimistic as well. So we have to take that into account. Elvis may have felt Vernon over. Everyone will keep an eye on the money, but a bank was a co-trustee. The problem I'm thinking is that Vernon had power to change the trustee. Yeah, he did. But did Elvis really think he was gonna? You know, did Elvis even think for a second that Elvis would change the trustee? Maybe it's a standard thing in a will that option is given to the people who inherit. I don't know. I don't know, guys. I'm starting to think his proposal to Ginger was that he was desperate for an anchor, a bit of stability. I mean, I like Ginger. She's lovely, but I don't take the relationship seriously in the way that many of you do. I just think 8 months with someone and she was only 20, 21. I've got nothing against Ginger. She's lovely. Her book's lovely. But come on. Elvis was in no fit state to commit to a marriage in December at Christmas. Nah. He was too unwell. He had too much going on. Just an opinion, guys. Right, so I've only got a couple more minutes, and then we're going to do a part 2 of this. But let's just play 2 more minutes, then I got to go, guys.
Okay. So these 3 trustees take over, and they actually did a pretty good job of managing the assets. I think possibly under Vernon's guidance, the trust was running out of money.
So, you know, as an outsider, they say that they did a good job. But remember, the plan to open Graceland as a living museum was a no-brainer. Memphis City were on it. So was before Vernon died. They were seriously discussing it and planning it. Then you've got Jack Sodden, Morgan Maxfield. You've also got even Colonel Tom Parker. They were all on it. When Elvis passed, they were going to preserve Graceland. They were going to launch the Living Museum. They knew it would be a success because so many thousands of people were visiting Elvis's grave, Gladys's grave. Yeah. So it was all a no-brainer, but it was all being discussed. It never happened because of Priscilla. Priscilla didn't save the day. She didn't prevent Graceland from being broken up and sold in little pieces. It wasn't her idea to launch the Living Museum. The idea was at hand. They had already drawn up the plans. Memphis City were on it. Yeah. So these people here, this is it Kirsten, they just think, oh yeah, the 3 trustees got together and saved Graceland and opened the Living Museum, and it was a massive success. And within months, they had made tens of millions. It wasn't that straightforward, guys. My point is, Priscilla didn't save the day. She jumped on the bandwagon that was already rolling along. The launching of the Living Museum, preserving Graceland. For Memphis, it was the biggest tourist attraction you could ever have. Elvis was so good for Memphis. So there was no way it was ever going to be broken up. There's no way they were going to keep it closed. It was obvious that it was going to become a living museum, a memorial to Elvis. Of course it was, especially because of the graveside, you know, the meditation garden. Yeah. So these people probably think, oh yeah, Priscilla saved the day with her clever thinking to open the museum and to stop Gracelands from being sold. It's just bullshit. These people don't know the whole story. We do. We, the fans, we know. Okay, let's keep a couple more minutes and then we're out of here, guys.
And a lot of that had to do with the fact that Graceland is very expensive asset to manage. It's not an investment in the stock market. You got to pay the property taxes. You got to clean that thing. You got to pay the maintenance. If it needs a new roof, all of that would come out of the trust. So they were losing money because Graceland was so expensive. But these 3 new trustees, they formed a corporation, Elvis Presley Enterprises, Inc.
Elvis Presley Enterprises, which stupidly, years later, was sold off. 85% of it. I'm gutted that happened. And let's keep going.
And that enabled them to hire some really good managers. And the other thing they did was they opened Graceland up as a tourist attraction. So instead of being a money pit, it became a piggy bank. And that really turned that, and a lot of other things really turned it around for the family.
That's very similar to what.
So, I mean, to cut, to break it down to simple terms, opening the Living Museum saved the day. The fans, the love for Elvis, Elvis's backlog of work, his music, his movies, his image, his personality, his impact on the world, the way he changed the world, was guaranteed that Graceland was going to be the second most visited attraction in the world. Yeah, it did. Financially, it saved the day. It did. Not Priscilla. The fans, Elvis. That's what saved the day. It's still happening now as we speak. Elvis, the love for his music, his image, his movies, just the way that Elvis was, how beautiful he was, his charm, the religious man that he was, has saved Gracelands and carried on helping to preserve Elvis's image and legacy. Yeah, it wasn't Priscilla. Priscilla jumped on the bandwagon. She went with it, and she has benefited massively for the last 40 years, at least 40 years. The name Presley, at least 40 years. So we've got 2 minutes left, and then we're going to finish. I'm going to come back in the afternoon for a part 2.
What all of the landowners that have estates in England have done in order to pay for those old estates.
They're very expensive castles. And yeah.
They have tours. They live there, but they still have tours and gift shops, and they maintain the gardens, and people come tour or they film there, things like that.
Yeah, that's right. They can license it out for movie sets and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay, guys, that's it. So time to go. I'm going to say goodbye. Very, very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Now, remember, these people are seeing it as outsiders looking in. I actually found it very fascinating, very interesting, and quite easy to understand, which is good for me because I'm terrible with legal documents. Thanks for everyone for joining. Thanks to all of you guys. Thanks for Linda's comments. Thank you. So this is going to be fascinating, guys. This is a learning curve. We are going to learn together, Team Elvis. Yeah, we are going to learn about the wills, about Vernon's wills, any changes to the will, Lisa's will, the insurance policies, the ins and outs. We're going to try and understand. There's a lot to learn here. Many of us have gone through this, haven't we? Many of us have gone through this many times, but we're refreshing it, rehashing it. I think what's happening now with Priscilla is gaining a lot of ground. Like Priscilla recently, in the last month or so, is really winning the battle. Yeah. We need to jump in there and put a fork in the works and interrupt Priscilla's forward momentum. Yeah. It's getting bad, guys. The way social media is at the moment, supporting Priscilla with these fake YouTube channels, these fake Elvis channels. Guys, we need to get stuck in and do some work here. We got our work cut out for us. And the release of the confirmation of the book deal, Priscilla's book, is devastating, really, because we know what's coming. We know what's coming. A second book of lies. Yeah. So I think talking about the will and what happened with the will, the changes with the will, with Vernon, with Lisa Marie's will, all of it, it needs to be exposed and discussed and broken down and interrogated. Yeah. So thanks, guys. Thanks to everyone. Really enjoyed this. Thanks for joining me. Sorry I'm in such a rush. I've got to go somewhere this afternoon. I'm going to be gone for about 4 hours. And then maybe I can come back and do part 2 of this. And we're going to do another part of the book discussion with, the fact that it's been confirmed that Priscilla will be releasing a book on the 23rd of September. And it's already written. It's already written. She confirmed it in her statement, in her press release. The book is written. Yeah. There's no changing it. All right, guys. Love you.